There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean.
My name is Tiffany Whitley. I'm 40 years old and I'm a recovering drug addict. Sometimes when I tell my story, I feel like I'm not telling my story at all, and in the end it's really not my story, it's God's story. Was raised here in Garrett County. My mom and dad divorced when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I just never really knew the love of my father. He was an alcoholic, and he was in adulterous relationships, and that's why they divorced. So I lived with my mom, and my grandmother lived with us, and my sister, and I wasn't raised in church, but I knew at an early age that there was a God, but I also knew that Satan was real. We would get in trouble, and my grandmother would say, you better be good because God's watching you. But the next day we would get in trouble, and it was, you better be good, the devil's going to get you. Wasn't introduced to the real love of God until I was 9 or 10 years old, and I met a couple that lived on our street, Janet and Lanny Ray. You all probably know them. They took me under their wing and took me to church, and just really showed me what real love is all about, and introduced me to God's Son, Jesus Christ. I believe I was saved at the age of 12, and looking back now, I believe that God allowed Satan to work in my life, or have his way with me to pave the path for what God had in store for me. I started drinking at a young age, 8th grade, about 13 years old, and I continued to drink all through high school, not all the time, but more than what I should have been doing, of course, and I was living a life that I knew was wrong because I was a child of God, and I was living in rebellion towards Him. So on the outside looking in, I actually, all through high school, was voted homecoming queen, and had won several pageants, and everybody saw me as this beautiful girl, smart, talented, funny, and caring, and but I didn't believe that about myself. I had no good feelings of myself because of the way that I was living my life. So I graduated high school in '95, and I found a job in Garrett County, really close to home, the Garrett County Judge Executive's office, and it was a good job, but I realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I loved taking care of people. I loved making people feel better. So I decided to go to nursing school, and applied for Midway College of Nursing, and I was accepted. And for 2 years, I carried a 4.0 GPA, and after my general education requirements, I had to go into my clinical stage, and which was very tough for me because I didn't have any nursing experience. So I was very stressed out, and during this time my grandmother was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. So I took care of her the last 3 months of her life. She died in January of 2000, and that was really hard for me because it was like losing a parent. So I had a lot going on, a lot of stress in my life at the time, and had friends that smoked marijuana. So one day I was going to be their designated driver, and the joint got around to me, and I smoked it, and it just seemed like all my worries for that day had gone away and disappeared. It's a false belief that they did, but in my mind that was what had happened. So I became very dependent on marijuana, and with that, of course, I dropped out of nursing school, and but I got a job in Wilmore at a nursing home as a CNA, and with the physical and mental demand of that job on my body and my mind, came a lot of pain in my body, and I started abusing my mom's pain medication with her. We became addicts together. Not being able to get those pain pills after so long becomes harder and harder to get them because you become more and more dependent. Came the use of harder drugs, and along with that, of course, I was arrested 4 times within a period of 5 years, I believe, and I had stolen $12,000 from a company within 6 weeks. Because I had access to their checking and savings accounts, and so I was arrested, and within that period of 5 years, like I said, I was arrested 3 more times after that, and the 4th and final time, I realized that something wasn't right, and I needed to do something about my life to get it back on track. So I just said a prayer, and I asked God to please. I wanted to be back in my children's lives. I've had 3 children in the course of all this, and they didn't have their mom, and I didn't have them. I didn't have anything. I was homeless at times, and so I turned my whole entire life over to Him. I surrendered everything to Him, and it was just the 19 months that I served in prison. I was constantly reading His Word and praying and just seeking His face in every day of my life there, and just the amazing difference that made in my life. I had never sought after Him like I did at that time, and I could have been doing the things that everybody else was doing in prison, but I had to make that choice myself and to realize that nothing was going to change unless I gave my whole entire life over to Him. And I did that, and since then, since my release in July of 2009, things have been great. I've continued my walk with Him. It's taken me baby steps to get where I am today. I'm a convicted felon working in a government facility, and only God can do that. So I have a wonderful husband. I have my 3 children back restored to me, and I have 2 more children that came with my husband when we married. So God's just been so good, and I encourage anyone, if you're struggling with any type of addiction, big or small, no matter how big or small you think it is, turn it completely over to Him, and He can deliver you, and He will deliver you, just like He did me. Thanks.